The Valori Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their ships filled the darkness between worlds. Their soldiers walked on 900 planets. No other species had ever beaten them in war. No one even tried anymore. The Valori were tall creatures with scales like polished stone. They believed the galaxy belonged to them by right. Other species existed to serve. This was simply the natural order of things. Humans were barely worth thinking about. A young species. Stubborn, yes. They refused to bow and pay tribute like the others, but they stayed in their own small corner of the galaxy, and the Empire had bigger concerns. The official records called them a minor civilization of limited strategic importance. That was about to change. Officer Kethros sat at his monitoring station on Outpost 7. It was a boring job. Ships came and went through this sector every day. Cargo vessels, military patrols, the occasional diplomatic transport. He watched his screens with tired eyes and dreamed of his next leave. A new contact appeared on his display. Another ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Nothing unusual. He started the standard identification scan without much interest. Then the ship's outline resolved on his screen. Kethros felt his scales go pale. He leaned forward, certain his equipment was broken. The vessel was enormous, nearly 6 kilometers long, bigger than any ship he had ever seen. Its hull was painted black, so dark it seemed to swallow the starlight around it. Strange weapons covered every surface. The design was completely unfamiliar. He ran the identification scan again. No match in the Imperial database. But there was something in the records. An old file, rarely accessed. Human military vessels. His blood went cold. "Commander," he called out, his voice cracking. "You need to see this." Commander Veth crossed the room with an annoyed expression. He was a veteran officer who had fought in 3 border wars. Very little surprised him anymore. He looked at the screen, and his annoyance turned to something else. Something Kethros had never seen on his face before. Fear. "Send a hailing signal," Veth ordered. Standard Imperial challenge. Kethros transmitted the message. For long moments, there was only silence. The massive ship hung in space like a predator waiting in the shadows. Then a response came through. A human voice spoke. It used perfect High Valori, the formal language of the Imperial Court. The accent was flawless. The tone was calm, almost pleasant. "This is the UEN Perseverance. We are here to collect our people." Veth's claws tightened on the edge of the console. He understood immediately. 3 cycles ago, Imperial forces had seized a human research station. The station had drifted into space the Empire claimed as its own. 47 human scientists were taken prisoner. They were sent to Ashketh 4, a prison world where the Empire kept those it wanted to question. Imperial command had been pleased. The humans were useful as hostages, a reminder to humanity of their proper place in the galaxy. Perhaps they could be traded for political concessions later. No one had expected the humans to come looking for them. No one had expected them to send something like this. "Transmit a warning," Veth commanded. "Tell them they are in violation of Imperial territory. Order them to withdraw or face military response." The message went out. The human ship did not move. It did not respond. It simply waited. Veth opened a secure channel to Sector Command. His report was brief and urgent. A human warship of unprecedented size had entered Imperial space. It claimed to be searching for the prisoners from the research station. It showed no signs of withdrawing. The response from command came within the hour. The sector governor himself had been informed. The 14th Suppression Fleet was being dispatched. 200 warships, including 3 Imperial dreadnoughts. More than enough firepower to destroy any single vessel, no matter how large. Veth felt relief wash over him. The humans had made a terrible mistake. 1 ship against 200. They would learn the price of threatening the Valori Empire. He looked at the black shape on his display screen. The Perseverance had not moved. It made no attempt to flee, even knowing that a fleet was coming. It just sat there in the darkness, patient and silent. For a moment, Veth wondered if the humans knew something the Empire did not. He pushed the thought away. Impossible. The Valori had ruled for 12,000 years. They had crushed every challenge to their power. Humans were children compared to them. Clever children, perhaps. But children all the same. The fleet would arrive soon. Then, this would all be over. On the bridge of the Perseverance, Captain Maria Santos reviewed her tactical displays. She saw the enemy fleet forming up several light hours away. 200 ships, 3 dreadnoughts, enough firepower to glass a planet. She smiled. Around her, her crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They had trained for this moment for years. They knew what their ship could do. They knew why they were here. 47 scientists, researchers who had wanted only to study the stars, people with families waiting for them back home. The Empire had taken them because it could, because it believed humanity was weak, because it believed there would be no cost. Maria Santos intended to teach them otherwise. All stations report ready, her first officer announced. Good, she said. Let them come. The stars burned cold and distant. The Perseverance waited in the darkness, and somewhere in the depths of space, 200 warships raced toward a lesson they would never forget. Lord Kethros received the report in his private chambers. He was the sector governor, responsible for 43 star systems and billions of imperial subjects. He was not a military man. He preferred politics, trade agreements, the quiet exercise of power through words rather than weapons, but he understood what was happening. A human warship had entered his sector. It demanded the return of prisoners that Imperial Command had ordered him to keep. If he gave them back, he would look weak. If he refused, he risked conflict with a species the Empire knew very little about. He chose to refuse. One ship, no matter how large, could not threaten an empire. He sent orders to Admiral Varys of the 14th Suppression Fleet. Find the human vessel, destroy it, make an example that would echo across the galaxy. Admiral Varys was an experienced commander. He had won 17 engagements against rebel forces and border raiders. His fleet was powerful and well-trained. He expected no difficulty. The fleet arrived at Ashketh IV in perfect formation. 200 warships spread across the darkness like a net of steel and fire. At the center flew 3 Imperial dreadnoughts, each one a kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. The human ship waited for them. Varys studied the enemy vessel on his display screen. It was larger than his own flagship, he admitted. Its design was strange and unfamiliar, but size meant nothing against superior numbers. His fleet could concentrate enough firepower to crack a moon. He opened a communication channel. Protocol demanded that he offer terms before attacking. A chance for the enemy to surrender with honor. The human captain appeared on his screen. She was a female of middle years, with brown skin and short, dark hair. She wore a simple uniform without decoration. Her face showed no fear, no anger, no emotion at all. That bothered Varys more than he wanted to admit. You are in violation of Imperial space, he declared. Your vessel is surrounded. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the conventions of war. Resist, and you will be destroyed. The human looked at him. Her eyes were dark and calm, like deep water hiding unknown depths. Admiral, I am going to give you one chance to do the right thing, she said. Her Valori was perfect, every word precise. Release the prisoners, all 47 of them, unharmed. Do that, and we leave peacefully. No one has to die today. Varys felt his scales flush with anger. This creature dared to give him orders. 1 ship against 200? And she spoke as if she held the advantage? And if we refuse? He asked. The human smiled. It was a small expression, barely visible. But something in it made his tactical officer shift nervously at his station. Then I am going to demonstrate why your empire should have left our people alone. Varys cut the channel. He had heard enough. The humans were clearly insane, drunk on their own arrogance. He would teach them the reality of power. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. Destroy that vessel. The fleet moved forward. 200 ships forming into precise attack groups, each one targeting the lone human dreadnought. Missile batteries came online. Plasma cannons charged. Targeting computers locked onto the enemy. On the Perseverance, alarms sounded across every deck. Crew members moved to battle stations with practiced speed. The ship hummed with power as its systems came fully online. Captain Santos sat in her command chair, watching the enemy fleet approach. She felt no fear, only a cold, clear focus that she had carried with her since childhood. She had been born on a colony world that nearly died from plague. She had lost her parents to a border skirmish with pirates. She had spent her entire life preparing for moments like this. Enemy fleet, entering weapons range. Her tactical officer reported. They are launching missiles. 2,000 incoming. Time to impact. 90 seconds. Santos nodded. Activate point defense systems. All batteries. The Perseverance came alive. Along its 6-kilometer hull, thousands of small turrets emerged from hidden compartments. Each one mounted a rapid-fire railgun, capable of tracking and destroying targets with computer precision. They began firing in perfect coordination. The darkness lit up with streams of metal moving at incredible speed. Missiles died by the hundreds. They exploded in bright flashes, filling the space between the ships with fire and debris. The point defense system tracked each target individually, calculating trajectories, adjusting aim, firing with mechanical efficiency. When the barrage ended, not a single missile had reached the human ship. Admiral Varys watched in disbelief. That was impossible. No ship could stop 2,000 missiles. No point defense system was that accurate. Concentrate plasma fire, he ordered. All capital ships, forward batteries. The 3 Imperial dreadnoughts turned their main weapons toward the enemy. Plasma cannons fired, releasing streams of superheated matter that could melt through any armor. The beams struck the human ship directly. The Perseverance's shields flared bright. Energy crackled across its hull. But the ship did not break. The shields held. Captain Santos checked her displays. Shield strength at 82%. Acceptable losses. They have made their choice, she said quietly. Main battery. Select targets. Fire when ready. Deep within the Perseverance, the primary weapon came online. A magnetic rail cannon stretching nearly a kilometer through the ship's core. It accelerated a tungsten projectile to a fraction of light speed. The first shot crossed the distance between ships in less than a second. Admiral Varys never saw it coming. One moment his flagship existed. The next, a hole appeared through its center, and the vessel tore itself apart from the force of its own momentum. The human ship fired again, and again, and again. 12 shots. 12 Vylori warships gone in as many seconds, and then the Perseverance began to move. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Later, Imperial analysts would study the sensor recordings thousands of times. They would slow the footage down to individual frames. They would run simulations trying to understand what they were seeing. None of it would make sense. The human ship did not fight like any vessel in recorded history. When the Perseverance moved, it moved like nothing its size should be able to. The ship accelerated at rates that should have crushed everyone aboard. It changed direction with brutal speed, spinning and diving through the Vylori formation like a predator among prey. The Imperial gunners tried to track it. Their targeting computers struggled to keep up. By the time they fired, the human ship had already moved somewhere else, and wherever it went, death followed. The main rail cannon fired with terrible precision. Each shot found its target. Each target ceased to exist. The Perseverance did not waste ammunition on smaller vessels. It focused on the threats, the remaining dreadnoughts, the heavy cruisers, any ship with weapons large enough to potentially hurt it. One by one, they died. Commander Yethis watched from the bridge of his destroyer as the flagship vanished in a flash of light. He saw the second dreadnought break apart, its ammunition storage exploding from the impact. The third tried to retreat and took a shot through its engine section. It drifted, powerless and burning. The human ship passed within 1,000 meters of his position. He saw it clearly through the viewport. That massive black hull sliding through space with impossible grace. Secondary weapons firing in all directions. Precise bursts that disabled ships without destroying them. It was not fighting. It was teaching a lesson. Yethis gave the order to flee. He was not a coward. He had served the Empire for 30 years. But he was not a fool either. This battle was already over. Staying meant dying for nothing. His ship turned and ran. Around him, other vessels did the same. The formation collapsed. Discipline broke. Captains who had served together for decades scattered in every direction. Each one desperate to escape. The human ship let them go. When the firing stopped, 147 Vylori warships were destroyed or crippled. The rest were fleeing at maximum speed. The space around Ashketh 4 was filled with wreckage and emergency beacons. The Perseverance returned to its position above the prison world. Its shields flickered once, then stabilized. A few scorch marks decorated its hull. Nothing more. 11 minutes, 200 ships, and the humans had barely been touched. On the prison world below, Warden Kesseth stared at his displays in horror. He had watched the entire battle from his command center. He had seen the Imperial fleet arrive in all its glory. He had been certain of victory. Now there was nothing left but debris and screaming on the emergency channels. The communication system crackled. A human voice filled the room. "Warden Kesseth, I know you are listening." The voice belonged to the human captain. It was calm, almost pleasant. That made it worse somehow. "You have 6 hours to deliver our people to the following coordinates. All 47 prisoners, alive and unharmed. After that deadline passes, I will begin removing your orbital defense platforms, then your military installations, then your administrative centers." A pause. The warden felt his heart's beating too fast. "I will continue until either our people are returned, or there is nothing left on your world larger than a storage building. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Kesseth looked at his staff. They looked back at him with wide, frightened eyes. None of them knew what to do. Their training had never prepared them for this. The prison held over 10,000 inmates from a dozen species. 47 of them were human. Scientists captured from a research station. They had been in custody for 3 cycles. Some had been questioned harshly. Others were simply waiting to be forgotten. Kesseth had never thought much about them. They were just prisoners, tools for political leverage. He followed his orders and did not ask questions. Now a single human warship hung in his sky like the judgment of an angry god. He made his decision quickly. He was a bureaucrat, not a soldier. He had no desire to die for 47 prisoners that no one important actually cared about. "Prepare the humans for transport," he ordered. "All of them. And call our medical staff. I want them healthy enough to walk before they leave." His subordinates rushed to obey. 6 hours was not much time. Some of the prisoners were in bad condition. The questioning sessions had not been gentle. But Kesseth would make it work. He had to. Above him, the Perseverance waited in silence. Its weapons were still hot from battle. Its sensors watched every movement on the surface below. Captain Santos sat in her command chair and reviewed the casualty reports. Her ship had taken 7 direct hits from plasma cannons, minor damage to the outer hull, 2 crew members with slight injuries from console overloads. Nothing serious. She felt no satisfaction in the victory, no pride in the destruction. She had not come here to prove humanity's strength. She had come to bring her people home, but if the Empire forced her hand, she would do what was necessary. She looked at the clock on her display. The countdown had begun. 6 hours, she said quietly. Then we see what they are made of. Her crew worked around her in focused silence. They were ready for whatever came next. They always had been. The Eternal Emperor sat upon his throne in the heart of the Valori homeworld. He was ancient beyond measure, kept alive by technologies that his ancestors had discovered long before humanity learned to make fire. His scales had faded to pale silver. With age, his eyes saw everything and missed nothing. Around him stood the War Council, the highest military commanders in the Empire, admirals who controlled fleets that could burn worlds, generals who had crushed rebellions across 1,000 star systems. Today, they looked afraid. The reports from Ashketh IV had spread through the military hierarchy like poison. Every officer with access to secure channels knew what had happened. 1 human ship, 200 Imperial vessels, 11 minutes. The numbers did not make sense. They could not make sense. And yet the evidence was undeniable. "Explain this to me," the Emperor said. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. How did 1 ship defeat an entire fleet? The admirals looked at each other. None of them wanted to speak first. None of them had answers that would satisfy their ruler. Finally, Admiral Sethros stepped forward. He was the oldest military commander present, a veteran of campaigns that had happened before most of his colleagues were born. "Majesty, our initial analysis suggests that the human vessel possessed technologies significantly more advanced than our own. Their weapons, their defenses, their propulsion systems, all of them exceeded our best estimates by a considerable margin. How is that possible?" the Emperor demanded. "Humanity is a young species. They have existed for barely 2,000 years. We have ruled for 12,000. How could they surpass us?" Silence filled the chamber. The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. An old voice spoke from the back of the room. "Because we stopped trying, Majesty." Everyone turned. The speaker was Chief Analyst Vethros, the head of Imperial Intelligence. He was frail and bent with age, but his mind remained sharp. He had served 5 emperors. He had seen the rise and fall of a dozen would-be challengers to Valori supremacy. "Explain yourself," the Emperor commanded. Vethros walked slowly toward the throne. His steps echoed in the silent chamber. 12,000 years ago, our ancestors were much like the humans are today. Hungry, ambitious, afraid. They built weapons because they had to. They advanced their technology because stopping meant death. Fear drove them forward. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Then we won. We conquered every rival. We destroyed every threat. And we became comfortable. Why develop new weapons when the old ones work perfectly well? Why seek new knowledge when we already know everything that matters? We built an empire on the achievements of our ancestors and then stopped. The admirals shifted uncomfortably. Some looked angry at the suggestion. Others could not meet the analyst's eyes. The humans never stopped. Vethros continued. They could not afford to. Their history is written in blood and fire. They nearly destroyed themselves a dozen times. Plagues, wars, disasters of their own making. Every generation faced extinction. Every generation had to fight to survive. He turned to face the Emperor directly. They do not build weapons for conquest, Majesty. They build them because they cannot imagine being helpless. Because their deepest instinct tells them that safety is an illusion. Because they remember what it means to be prey. And they have sworn never to be prey again. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. And this ship? The Perseverance? It is not their best ship, Majesty. It is simply the one that was closest. Our intelligence suggests they have hundreds of vessels of similar capability, perhaps thousands. We do not know for certain because they do not tell anyone. They learned long ago that showing your full strength only invites others to prepare against it. A cold silence filled the chamber. How did we miss this? One of the admirals asked. Our spies, our analysts, our entire intelligence apparatus. How did we not see what they were building? Vethros smiled sadly. Because we were not looking, Admiral. We classified humanity as a minor threat and assigned minimal resources to monitoring them. We saw what we expected to see, a young species struggling to expand into the galaxy. We never imagined they might be hiding their true capabilities. The Emperor sat back. His ancient face showed no emotion, but his mind was racing. 12,000 years of supremacy, 900 worlds under Valori rule, and now, suddenly, the universe looked very different. What do you recommend? He asked finally. Vethros bowed his head. Release the prisoners, Majesty. Immediately and without conditions. Then begin diplomatic contact with the human government. Real diplomacy. Not the empty gestures we have offered before. We must learn what they want, what they fear, what they might accept. You ask me to show weakness, the Emperor said. I ask you to show wisdom, Vethros replied. The humans did not send a fleet to our space. They sent one ship to rescue 47 scientists. They could have sent 100 vessels and burned Ashketh 4 to ash. They chose not to. He met the Emperor's eyes. They are not looking for war, Majesty. They just want their people back. But if we force them to fight, I fear we will discover just how much they have been holding back. The chamber fell silent. Every admiral, every general, every official present understood what was at stake. The Valori Empire had ruled unchallenged for 12,000 years. That era was ending. The only question now was whether it would end peacefully or in fire. The prisoners came out of the facility one by one. Transport shuttles carried them from the surface to the coordinates Captain Santos had specified. Each shuttle landed in the shadow of the Perseverance. Dwarfed by the massive human dreadnought, Imperial guards handed over their charges with pale faces and trembling hands. Medical teams from the human ship met each group. They wore white uniforms and spoke in gentle voices. They helped the former prisoners onto stretchers and guided them toward waiting treatment centers. Some of the scientists walked on their own. Others had to be carried. The questioning sessions on Ashketh 4 had not been kind. Broken bones, burns, wounds that would take weeks to heal. Captain Santos watched from the observation deck as her people came home. Her face was calm, but her hands gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. 47 lives. Researchers who had wanted nothing more than to study the stars. People with families waiting for them. Dreams that had been interrupted by imperial arrogance. The Empire had taken them because it could, because it believed humanity was weak, because it never imagined there would be consequences. Now 200 warships drifted as wreckage around Ashketh 4. Now the Valori knew better. When the last prisoner was safely aboard, Santos allowed herself a moment of relief. The mission was complete. Her people were home, but she was not finished yet. She walked to the communication center and sat before the main console. Her officers watched in silence as she prepared a broadcast. Not just to the military channels. Not just to the sector government. She was going to speak to everyone. The transmission went out on every frequency. It reached military command centers and civilian broadcasts alike. It penetrated secure networks and public channels. Millions of beings across the sector heard her voice. To the citizens of the Valori Empire. She paused, choosing her words carefully. My name is Maria Santos. I am the captain of the United Earth Navy vessel Perseverance. I have come to your space to retrieve 47 human scientists who were taken prisoner by your government 3 cycles ago. Her voice was calm and clear. She spoke without anger, without hatred. Just simple truth. Those scientists are now aboard my ship. They are being treated for their injuries. Soon they will return home to their families. This matter is concluded. She leaned forward slightly. But I want you to understand something. We did not want this. Humanity has never sought conquest. We have never desired to rule over others. We asked only to be left in peace. To explore. To grow. To make our own mistakes and find our own path among the stars. Her eyes hardened. But we will not be prey. We will not be conquered. We will not abandon our own. The 47 people on this ship were taken because your empire believed we were weak, because your leaders thought there would be no price to pay. She thought of her parents, killed by raiders when she was 12. She thought of her colony, nearly destroyed by plague. She thought of all the millions of humans across the galaxy, building and growing and preparing for threats that had not yet appeared. Let this be a lesson. Humanity remembers. We remember every slight, every betrayal, every life taken, and we always come for our people. Always. She let the words sink in. We are not your enemies. We have no wish to destroy what you have built. But understand this. If you threaten our people again, if you take what is ours, if you force us to fight, we will answer. Not with words, not with diplomacy, with everything we have. She rose from her chair. Consider carefully before you test us again. The transmission ended. Across the Valori Empire, billions watched in shock. They had grown up believing their civilization was supreme, that no other species could challenge their power. Now they saw the wreckage of 200 ships and heard the calm promise of a human captain. On occupied worlds, the subject species whispered to each other. The Keth, conquered 8,000 years ago. The Morathi, enslaved for their technical skills. The Vorn, who had once ruled their own small empire before the Valori destroyed it. They watched the transmission and felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. The humans had come for 47. What would they do for millions? The Perseverance activated its full drive. Reality bent around the massive ship. In a flash of light, it vanished, leaving behind only debris and memories. Captain Santos stood on her bridge as the stars stretched into lines around her. The mission was over. Her people were safe. Soon they would be home. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Valori would not forget what happened today. Neither would anyone else. The galaxy had changed. Old certainties had crumbled. New possibilities had emerged. Humanity had revealed itself. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as something perhaps more dangerous. A species that protected its own. No matter the cost. No matter the odds. Behind her, the medical reports came in. 47 survivors, all stable. Some would need months of recovery. But they were alive. They were going home. Santos allowed herself a small smile. Let the Empire tremble. Let them fear what they had awakened. Humanity had not wanted war. But if war came, they would be ready. They always had been.